Hi there, everyone. Happy Monday. It is 4 o'clock in the East. If anyone were holding on to any last delusion that Donald Trump's bluster and weird and erratic public statements and behavior was somehow his secret strategy or sauce on the international stage, those delusions surely died a quiet and mortified death today. As the 60-day memorandum of understanding with Iran expires, Donald Trump proving once and for all that his ego, his fragility, his apparent instability might actually be America's greatest national security threat, as it becomes abundantly clear that he is way out of his depth in the war he began with Iran. In the span of just 20 hours, Donald Trump threatened to both dramatically widen the war with Iran and to abandon one of our closest allies in favor of a dictator who's been nice to him. Earlier today, in a phone interview with Fox News, Donald Trump threatened to bomb the country of Oman over its decision to negotiate with Iran in response to questions from Fox about the parallel talks taking place between Iran and Oman over the Strait of Hormuz. About that, Trump said this, quote, "If Oman gets in the way, we'll bomb the shit out of them." Trump also implied that the U.S. would be abandoning one of America's closest allies, South Korea, due to Trump's friendship with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. On that, Trump posted on Truth Social that we would be scaling down joint military exercises with South Korea, writing this, quote, "Based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I am not happy with the fact that the United States has long ago agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. These exercises send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile to a country that, as long as Donald J. Trump has been president, has been unthreatening and respectful. I recently asked the president of South Korea if they would like to join us in the denuclearization of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they said, quote, no thanks." Trump was asked about that decision earlier today, as well as his comments about Oman. We'll play you his response.
How do you respond to folks who say that you are prioritizing the interests of adversaries in North Korea over our longtime partners by scaling back the military exercises?
No, I'm making it much safer. You see, I'm actually making it much safer. Kim Jong-un has always treated me with great respect, and we met on numerous occasions, actually, 2 primary occasions, spoken and spent time. I understand him. He understands me.
You said you would bomb the S out of Oman if they got in the way of reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Would you say you're out of patience with Oman, a strategic partner?
No, I don't think they behave very well, but we'd handle them very easily, just like we do other things.
I feel it's important to stop regular programming and remind you of something that Trump's first Secretary of State once said, Rex Tillerson. He, quote, reportedly called Trump an effing moron following a national security meeting at the Pentagon. That was per NBC News reporting. CNN reported around the same time that his first chief of staff, or maybe it was the second, General John Kelly, said this about Trump when it came to foreign policy, quote, "The depths of his dishonesty is just astounding to me. The dishonesty, the transactional nature of every relationship, though it's more pathetic than anything else, he is the most flawed person I have ever met in my life." Back to today's news. Donald Trump there speaking like a president who has no idea that the ally in this equation is Oman, which is America that relies on Oman's military facilities there. While Donald Trump might be doing his best to play the character of a strong man, the reality is spoken by Rex Tillerson and John Kelly, and the reality of this moment of America's military posture around the world does tell a very different and very alarming story. As Trump's war with Iran depletes our weapons stockpiles and exhausts our men and women in the military. Washington Post is reporting today that the U.S. supply of a drone that's key to monitoring and defending the Strait of Hormuz has dropped by 25% because of Trump's war with Iran. Trump attempting to emulate his favorite strongman on the world stage as our military and national security and credibility pay the price is where we begin today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Obama, now the co-host of Pod Save the World, Contributor Ben Rhodes is back. Also joining us, staff writer at The Atlantic, Tom Nichols, is back. He's a professor emeritus of national security affairs at the U.S. Naval War College. And our senior national security reporter, David Rohde, is with us. David, I start with you. And I went back and read the context of Tillerson's description of Donald Trump as an effing moron. I think it comes after this now infamous tank briefing where the generals are trying to tell Trump basically why we go to war and why we fight and who we are allied with and why. And the inability to make him understand the purpose of alliances and the threat posed by our adversaries is, I think, what creates Tillerson to just burst out with that truth bomb, describing Trump as an effing moron. And I think on Kelly's part, General John Kelly had been sort of stewarding the chapter where Trump repeatedly tweeted about Little Rocket Man, which was his sort of the enemy part of the frenemy relationship with Kim Jong-un, when he concludes this, that, quote, the transactional nature of every relationship that Trump has is, quote, more pathetic than anything else. So these are two credible men who were there for Trump 1.0. And I bring that up because there are no Tillersons, there are no Kellys. We're not getting any window into the honest predicament that the president has placed the United States in. So we rely on journalists like yourself. Tell us, are things as bad as they seem?
Things are getting worse, I would say. The strange thing about this weekend, and, I had the same feeling you did, is that the erratic behavior of the president, it's obviously led to enormous problems and failures and, tremendous risks for American service members with Iran. But you now have that sort of spreading around the world. Previously, you could have said there was a problem in Ukraine. You talked about South Korea. And it's extraordinary that the President of the United States is sort of praising the dictator, Kim Jong-un, who is in his early 40s, who inherited this hermit kingdom from his father, that they should be treated well because Kim Jong-un treats President Trump respectfully. And it's just astonishing in that it helps China so much. And at the same time, you have the last U.S. Aircraft carrier, the Japan-based carrier, leaving the region for the first time since the 1970s. And that this has been Republican and Democratic presidents, going back to Nixon, have had a carrier there to protect South Korea, to protect Taiwan, and to protect Japan. And it's the rate at which Donald Trump is sort of unraveling our alliances worldwide, to me, seems faster, at least, than I ever expected. And this weekend was sort of a microcosm of that.
So what happens now, David? I mean, he's got himself completely boxed in. And I don't know what story his own advisors could be telling him that doesn't, perhaps in softer terms articulate that when it comes to Iran. But what is your sense of what their own assessment is of what our options are?
It's hard for me to say. I don't know. I know, at least in the first term, Trump's aides feared him. He had a volcanic temper. I mean, the big difference was that there were people like Rex Tillerson, like Jim Mattis, who resigned. Gina Haspel threatened to resign because she would not allow Kash Patel to become the deputy director of the CIA. You don't see that in his closer circle. You do see some people leaving. One announcement over the weekend was Andy Baker. He's a respected aide of J.D. Vance's. He's now leaving the White House. Carolyn Leavitt, said she was going to leave earlier. And so it's not a large number of people leaving. But the different dynamic, the key here in this second term is it's just Trump doing what he wishes. Todd Blanche saying, I'm going to, consult with the president when it comes to the Justice Department. It's a president getting, more power than we've ever seen since the post-Watergate reforms. And then a president, at least in terms of foreign policy and national security, the area I know well, who just seems to be making this up as he goes along.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, the utterances about canceling military exercises and abandoning South Korea have in some ways alarmed a wider circle of people more publicly than the volatile and chaotic and erratic utterances about Iran. And I'm not sure if that's because it's just a new front that he's now publicly destabilizing Kim Jong-un is an old, I want to call him paramour, sort of love. He shared his love letters between himself and Kim Jong-un across the two terms. He's very proud of that relationship. But again, it feels almost like he was steered toward a friendship with Kim Jong-un because the advisors at the time feared that he would start a war with North Korea. But just talk about the natural extension of that relationship leading to the abandoning of another key strategic U.S. ally in Korea, South Korea.
Well, I mean, first of all, it feels a bit like a bully on the schoolyard who is not getting his way with Iran. And so now he's just going to look for other people to beat up, right? It's a classic bully behavior. And let's take a step back here, because first of all, it bears noting that to much fanfare, Donald Trump launched those talks with Kim Jong-un in his first term that achieved precisely nothing. Like, the purpose of the talks going into it was to address North Korea's nuclear weapons program. And nothing was done to constrain North Korea's nuclear weapons program. It's advanced since then. Its missile program has advanced since then. He says they've done nothing threatening. That's not the case. They've actually even sent tens of thousands of troops to fight in Vladimir Putin's army in Ukraine, and in return have gotten all manner of Russian military technology that puts the United States at greater risk and certainly U.S. allies. And so this is the picture of what's happening. He's already diminished our commitment to South Korea. The THAAD missile defense system, which is the most advanced missile defense system we deploy in that part of the world to defend them against threats. Part of that was moved to the Middle East because of his Iran war, right? So he's already kind of signaled how unimportant they are. But here's the problem. These countries, whether it's South Korea or Oman, they're going to be around after Trump. And they have other options. Yeah. There's no reason South Korea has to make its entire security architecture plug into the United States as it does.